Thank you. Hi, yeah, I'm Drew. I'm an alcoholic. I didn't know we were supposed to have anyone introduce us, but I'm a member of ACYPAA, which stands for All California Young Peoples of Alcoholics Anonymous. It's this big conference that we put on, or that some young people's group puts on every year. And this is the first year that Santa Cruz has gotten awarded the conference. So we're going to put that on. So, yeah, that'll be in February from the 6th to the 9th. Anyone is welcome to attend. It's going to be a lot of fun. Meetings, dances, tomfoolery. It's gonna be a blast. So hope you guys can attend. Yeah, I'm really glad I can make it tonight. I got confused about Eastern time versus Pacific time. And was supposed to be in a class right now, but I realized last minute that this is at 6:30. So I chose to come here instead because I wouldn't be able to go to my classes without sobriety. I wouldn't have anything in my life without being sober. So I show up today, which is not something I used to do. But I did not have time to like get calm and collected before this meeting, and I raced here in my car. So all that to say, I'm glad I'm here. Um, and yeah, I'll share my story for a bit, and we'll get going. Um, yeah, with some people, I think this disease is either um, genetic or um, a different, or brought on through trauma or whatever. I don't really need to understand it to know that I have it, but um, I do have three grandparents who I never met because they died of this disease, um, and two parents who are now sober. My dad has like 46 years. My mom she just got five. Um, and um, yeah, and so when I told my mom um, that I thought I was an alcoholic, she told me I'd come by it honestly. And I was like, all right, thanks for that. Um, but I grew up in Burbank, California. Um, I was always a weird kid. I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was 4 or 5 and was put in therapy for it at that age and medicated for it at that age. So I always felt like there was something wrong with me. Um, I'm also trans, so I was born female and now obviously don't identify that way. So just a lot of things in my life when I was little that were confusing and um, I just didn't never really felt comfortable. I felt like everyone had this like guidebook to life or like there was classes on how to be like a normal person and my book was missing a few pages or I'd missed a few classes and yeah, and it wasn't too bad until like the third grade when I realized that other kids were making fun of me. Like I had the cognitive like awareness like, oh, this is at my expense. I'm the weird kid. And ever since then, I have tried to do everything in my power to make people think that I'm normal, to make people like me, to be like just fly under the radar. Um, and that was exhausting. Um, it's exhausting, like constantly overthinking like every interaction and um, trying to get people's approval and trying to think of like what ways to act, what ways not to act. So I always or so ever since I can remember, I've been like searching for like the solution to like feel better, to like make all the pain inside stop. My first solution was self-harm and um, suicidal ideation, and that didn't really work that well because it's not manageable, and it kept landing me in hospitals. Um, so yeah, so um, when I found alcohol, that worked like a charm. I remember the first time I drank, I got like super drunk because I loved it, and all those feelings of like overthinking and like the pressure and like all those anxieties just melted away. And I'm not gonna lie, I was a really fun drunk. Like, and I always thought it was because of the alcohol, but really it was because um, I've come to find that I'm actually a likable and cool person underneath all that anxiety, and the alcohol helped me get rid of it. So it's really just me being myself at the end of the day, but I thought it was the alcohol. Like I said, my dad's sober, so at that house, I didn't really have access to alcohol. At my mom's, she had um, relapsed and was drinking a lot, but she was only drinking red wine, which I didn't really like, but I still drank it anyway. Um, Went to college, had a lot of problems right away. My roommates called my parents and told them they thought I had a drinking problem, which I thought was really fucked up because I was selling them Adderall. So I was upset. I thought it was like such a contradiction. I'm like, I sell you drugs and you're gonna tell my parents. But it just shows how much they were like worried about me. Moved back home, found the other solution to my problems, which was weed. Weed really helped. And that's the thing with like alcohol and weed and all these things that like help like at first, like they're solutions because they help at first and then they stop working, but we wouldn't become addicted to them if they didn't at some point work. Um, so I had fun while it did work, but constant like luckily never got a DUI, but constantly drove drunk, const didn't remember how I got home, didn't remember conversations I had with people and just a lot of problems. So my And then the next solution that I was really banking on this one was realizing that I was trans and transitioning. I really thought that was going to fix everything. And I'm like, it fixed a lot. It helped a lot, but at the end of the day, I'm still an alcoholic. I don't drink because I'm trans. I drink because I have the mental obsession and the body allergy that just makes me want to keep drinking. Um, yeah, I tried therapy to help me. Um, I tried like doing therapy to try to like, okay, I'm only gonna drink 3 nights a week, or I'm only gonna um drink like certain times and try to like control it, which I couldn't because I'm an alcoholic. Anyways, my brother went to treatment. He's a fentanyl addict, and I was really worried about him. There was a lot of times we didn't know if he was like alive or dead. It was very stressful, so I drank a lot in order to deal with those feelings, and I rationalized it to myself because I wasn't putting a needle in my arm. I wasn't homeless. I was just drinking myself into oblivion every night. But it slowly started to occur to me that I had a problem, and because I couldn't make it to our family. There was like family therapy that we were all supposed to go to, and I kept missing because I didn't like sitting in the chair of like the supportive family member being told like, oh, the alcoholic does this, and the alcoholic, like I felt like a fraud. So I didn't like going. And then my parents noticed. So the last time I went, I was like super hungover and probably still like a little drunk. And I excused myself during the family session and went to the bathroom and was throwing up and was just sitting on the floor. And like the thought occurred to me, I'm like, this is fucked up. And um, I don't want to be like this anymore. So the next day he went to sober living and I took his bed at the treatment center. And this was in 2019. I just got 2 years sobriety, so obviously some things went wrong in between that sobriety date and this one. But um, for a year I was in and out of treatment, couldn't stay sober, wasn't really ready. And then in September of 2020, I had like been kind of working a program with the sponsor, but like not really doing the things and not really willing to do whatever it takes. And I kept calling him after I relapsed instead of before, which doesn't work out that well. You're supposed to call before you relapse. Anyways, I had just gone on like a real or just relapsed and like gone to like really do it up. Like I went out with my old friends and like played all the drinking games and really tried to like recapture the feelings that I'd once gotten, and I still was miserable. So I checked myself back into treatment and I tried to kill myself because I was like, well, drinking's not working and the sobriety thing's not working. So I'm out. And luckily, I'm really bad at killing myself, um, which I now appreciate. Um, and I woke up the next morning and I was like, all right, this program has helped millions and millions of people. It's helped trans people. It's helped like every person you could think of, every type of person you could think of. I'm not that fucking special that it's not gonna help me if I really try. So I got a new sponsor and I started doing everything he told me to do. And slowly but surely um I started getting sober and I started getting better. And life was really good for a while. Um and I got 2 years. Um, but I didn't believe in a higher power throughout the whole time. And for the first year that was fine because I was still trying to find it, but then right when I got a year, I got a girlfriend and I decided that she would be a good higher power. And she wasn't because she's not God and she's a fallible human being. And people don't like it when you depend on them too much. So I was in fear. And you know that saying, like, Jesus, take the wheel. Um, like, I was holding on to the steering wheel like so tight because I didn't believe that anything was out there that was going to keep me from crashing the car. But when I'm gripping the wheels that tightly and I'm driving, not knowing where I'm going, I always crash the car anyway. And that's exactly what happened. I relapsed and lost the girl, lost the apartment we shared, just more like just complete emotional bankruptcy. And that was in October of 2022. My sobriety date is November 26th, 2022. I just got 2 years again. Um, and during this last, I think, 8 minutes, I'm going to talk about what I did differently and where I went wrong the first time I did the steps and what I did right the second time. So the only step I think I've ever done perfectly is step one. Believing like ever since I like learned that I'm an alcoholic or came to the realization that I'm an alcoholic, I never had like the idea that like, oh, I'm gonna relapse and be a normal person or blah blah. Like I just knew that like, oh, I'm gonna go drink and fuck my life up because I had no control over that. But I always knew I was an alcoholic. But step two and three, yeah, I did not believe in a higher power, and today I do. And I had a spiritual awakening during my last use, which you don't need to have. Um, you don't need to use to have a spiritual awakening. I think the universe just threw me a bone. But I had a spiritual experience, and so step two and three were a lot easier because I had someone to turn my life over to. I had a belief that like everything was going to be okay. Um, steps four, um, I did a thorough inventory both times, and I got a lot of relief in that. If you're stuck on your fourth step, just get through it and read it with a sponsor because you're just holding on to all that shit right now. If you're on your fourth step, and like it's hard and you got to hand it off to someone. Um, During my last sobriety, my steps six and seven, I constantly was acting out my character defects and because I liked some of them. And I was good at being sneaky and um but it kept making me feel like shit. Like I kept so I just um I was like borrowing from like the seventh tradition at my home group. I was reading my girlfriend's journal, like just doing like bad stuff and it made me feel like a bad person because I was acting like a bad person. Um Step 8 and 9, um I actually got the opportunity of the sobriety after like a year or so of not talking with my ex-girlfriend. She reached out and I made my amends and we briefly started dating again. And um we both came to a realization that like there's just too much in the past and too much to that would have been needed to get over and it just didn't feel the same and so we left on very good mutual terms and that was a really big eighth and ninth step for me. I'm really glad that I got that opportunity and that I got that opportunity with someone who also is in the program and understands. Step 10, I was holding on to a lot of 10 steps in my last sobriety. I would go weeks without like knowing I need to write the 10, but not wanting to tell my sponsor because I was like, oh, I already know what he's gonna say. Like rationalizing to myself. Um, and a lot of times I kind of do know what he's gonna say because like he's it's usually my conscience, like the conscience or the good angel on my shoulder. Um, but now I do 10 steps regularly. I tell my sponsor everything. I don't have any secrets with my sponsor, and that saved my ass. Step 11, I um so my new idea of higher power and I like saying this because the more times you hear like there's gonna it's your own conception of a higher power. But for me, I could not find one, and so I like to share mine because if you need to borrow one for a while, like this one might work for you. So I still keep so it's like I'm still in the car, I'm driving, my hands are still on the wheel, but my higher power is the GPS. And the destination is a happy, sober life, being of service, a wife, kids, all that jazz. And the universe knows how to get me there. There's different routes that are going to take me there, but I like on my own, I don't have the direction or to get there. And sometimes I mess up. Sometimes I take a wrong turn. Sometimes I, you know, get turned around or there's traffic or whatever. But as long as I keep driving, keep my hands on the wheel and follow my higher power's directions, I'll get to my destination and I can handle anything that comes at me. So that's been really cool to like be free of that fear and that need to control. Sometimes I take it back, but it's getting less and less. And step 12, being a service. And here's where I'll plug ACYPAA in a little bit. Um, I lived in I grew up in LA. I moved to Santa Cruz because I got into UC Santa Cruz with 6 months of sobriety. I didn't know anyone here, and I immediately just plugged myself in. I got picked up commitments. I went to fellowship. I talked to people, and it was so scary at first because inside I still have that fear that I'm that weird little kid. It's still that fear is still there, um, and I have to push through it, and um, and let people show up for me. And so I got involved in AccuPaw and it's been great. I've made so many friends and felt so much love and just it's just been great way of being of service. So yeah, my last 2 minutes, I'm gonna wrap it up. But my sobriety this time is just so much richer and so much fuller because of the higher power, because of like having friends and not being codependent on someone. And I don't have like $1 million in the bank. I don't have, um, a wife and kids yet. I don't have like all the stuff that like sometimes I feel like I need and that I want, but I have a good group of friends. I can show up for my family. This Thanksgiving, they weren't worried about me. They weren't worried about my brother who just got a year and a half sobriety, and I'm so proud of him. And we get to show like the holidays aren't about me anymore. They're about my family and I show up for them and I let them have a holiday surrounded by love and surrounded by like kids that they're not worried about, which is an amazing feeling. Um, but more than anything, I have the freedom and the ability to be myself and I don't want to die anymore, which is really cool. Um, I don't want to die and I don't need outside substances in order to help me feel that way. Um, I am I'm a free man and I know and I have the understanding that like no matter what life throws at me, no matter what like roadblocks there are or shit in the road, that as long as I keep my hands on the wheel, I will be okay. All right, that's what I got. Thanks for letting me share.